Are the dogs dying to entertain us?
It is, I'm sure they won't mind us saying, the working class cousin of the horse racing industry. Not quite the same levels of glamour, but the people here love it. And so too, they'd have us believe, do the dogs. They're sight hounds originally bred for hunting. Their prey drive is strong, which is why they'll chase the lure obsessively. And they are super fast, with top speeds upwards of 60 kilometres an hour. Only the cheetah is faster. But their spectacular ability comes at a cost. Injury is just one of the concerns. There is a hidden secret, as it's being called, in a sport which is not quite as healthy as it seems. If you had your way, the whole industry would end up gone.
That's right. Greyhound.
Why? What's so bad about it?
Well, greyhound racing puts these beautiful creatures' lives on the line for 30-second races where they're at risk of extreme injuries, just so people can be entertained and gamble on them.
So Aaron Cross loves his dogs, and that's led him to hate the industry they come from. After fostering ex-racing greyhound packs, he founded the Greyhound Protection League. Your stance against the greyhound racing industry has led many in that industry to despise you, hasn't it?
It's a fair comment. Yep.
You've had threats?
There's been a lot of veiled threats. People tend to be a little bit cautious about a direct threat. But, you know, this is the environment that I'm operating in.
If the industry is feeling the pressure of mounting criticism, it's not shying away from it. There is a lot to lose. It may be the poor relation, but it still contributes $76 million a year to the economy and provides 750 jobs. The dapper, gentlemanly Jim Leach is General Manager at Greyhound Racing New Zealand. He invited us to Hattrick Raceway at Wanganui, where there are meets every Wednesday. Are we allowed in here? And he gave us access all areas. The pre-race vet checks where every dog is inspected at the start of each meeting to make sure there are no injuries. The kennels where the four-legged Usain Bolts wait patiently for their chance at glory. And trackside for a front row view. There's a few characters around here, aren't there?
Definitely is. There's a few lived-in faces, you might say.
The white one's the winner today? The white one's the winner today?
The winner, yes.
How have your dogs done today?
Oh, well, she won, and her sister over there ran second.
Oh, that's a good. At Wanganui today, one of those characters, Pauline Blanche, who's currently training 5 dogs. How long have you been doing this job? Is it a job for you or a hobby?
It's more or less a hobby, you know, just over 30 years.
Would it be rude of me to ask how much money you've made today with a first and a second?
Not today.
Yeah. You got your papers, have you?
Yeah.
The stakes are all right from what I've been reading.
273.
273, is that for your second?
That's for the second, and the winner was 600.
Ooh. Greyhound racing here at Wanganui is alive and kicking. But it's the action on the track we've come to see today. Hopefully we won't witness some of the carnage there's been recently. During 3 meetings here in August, 9 dogs were injured, including 2 which had to be euthanized as a result. This is my first ever greyhound race we're about to watch. What should I expect to see? But Jim Leach is keen to show me the good side, to give me the lowdown. And so the box opens. Now, way to go. Wow, that is fast. But soon after the start, a dog has fallen, though the rest carry on. Fireboy Baxter has won. But on the back straight, there's concern over Archie's token.
So that's now being carried off, clearly injured.
Clearly injured, yeah.
So what will happen now with that?
Well, the vet will inspect the dog.
Can we go and see that?
I think we might just be better to leave them until they sort themselves out.
It is upsetting to see, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
You even look a little bit shaken by it.
Well, it's always, it's not a good thing. No one likes to see an animal injured.
But I guess from your perspective, I don't know, is that the collateral damage, if you like, of this industry?
Well, I don't know whether I'd call it collateral damage, but it is one aspect of the industry where not everybody's very happy about it. There's clearly been some criticism of greyhound racing because of that.
And you can see why?
You can see why, yes.
As preparations for the next race go ahead, we try to find out what's happened to the dog. One course official eventually confirms to us the worst. The dog has smashed its knee and has been put down.
Yeah, it needs to run again. It's a male, so it's not a breeder. Yeah. So it's no future, unfortunately.
Okay, I've just spoken to the trainer of that dog and he's in tears actually. He's so devastated that he doesn't want to appear on camera. But here's the thing about how this industry works. He has several other dogs racing today, so he's heading straight back out there. I guess the show just must go on. What's an acceptable injury rate?
Oh, well, I don't think it's realistic to think you'll get none. The injury rate, currently the level of what is ultimately a fatal injury is running somewhere around about 20 to 25 per year. But you've got to put that in perspective. We're running over 5,000 races a year. That's over 40,000 dogs going around a track. So that's a pretty small percentage.
But there's more to the picture. Each year, hundreds of dogs are non-fatally injured, lacerations, muscle tears, fractures. And so far this year, the injury rate in New Zealand is higher than the accepted rate internationally.
Does that concern you?
It concerns me when we get injuries, yes, definitely does. We may be slightly ahead at the moment compared to last year, but they do tend to even out, and there are a whole lot of different things that come into play here.
There are some things you can control.
Definitely are some things we can control.
You can improve track maintenance and safety,
yes,
that kind of
yes,
things.
And we're certainly doing everything we can to do that.
You're taking this seriously?
We're taking it very seriously.
Dr. Nick Cave of Massey University has extensively studied greyhound injuries. Given that there is inevitably an injury rate, is it okay from your perspective as a vet that we put the dogs through this just for the sake of our entertainment?
That is a good question. We need to balance the interests of society with the interests of the dog. Now, the interest of society in this case is entertainment, revenue generating and gambling. They're not very noble interests, are they? So when we rank those against the interests of the dog not to be harmed, it's clear that we have to focus on the interests of the dog. Now, on the other hand, the dog is doing an activity that it loves doing.
Which may well be so, but it's not always fun. Aaron Cross shows us footage of a race in Minutes in June. Watch the dog at the back of the field pull up suddenly.
So the poor dog just stops running. All his mates are running after the lure. And here he's carried.
With some urgency.
There is a sense of urgency here. But the poor dog's leg is flopping back and forwards, broken.
That's clearly broken.
And the people at the race on the day said they could hear him scream. So.
What happened after that? So he's been carried off to the vet there?
That's right.
And then what happened?
He's been carried into the room where the vet euthanized him with lethal injection.
They're here to entertain us, but does that mean we can do what we like with them when they no longer win? Here's Paula again on what happens to greyhounds that are past their use-by date.
Good girl, good girl. Ready?
Where she goes.
You watch this when she gets on the fluff when she gets back. Her race name's Obsessed, and there's a good reason for that, you'll see.
Knowing greyhounds are fast is one thing. Seeing them up this close is quite another.
Come on, Nikki!
They are powerful, impressive beasts who'd be frightening if they were after you. Thankfully, all they want is the prey. This one is one of around 30 or so dogs Craig Roberts trains on his property near Christchurch.
You can see why she's called Obsessed.
She is obsessed with that.
She loves it.
There's something about this industry that seems to attract stayers, and Roberts has been in the game for 30-odd years.
As far as I'm concerned, they're the best athletes in the world. The dedication in which they chase, the speeds they get up to, and then how they behave in their kennels and that, they're just like big babies. They're fantastic natures.
Gertie, come here.
Come on, love.
Come here.
Good girl. Nothing to stand on there.
She's not
Roberts seems to have an affinity for his animals, whatever speed they are. Gertie is now blind and diabetic. She's on insulin every day.
How old is Gertie?
She's 12. So
why did you decide to keep her as a pet?
Oh,
you can't keep them all as pets, obviously.
Because she sort of grew up as a bit of a pet anyway, she had that, and she just had that fantastic nature. So we used to haul her off the couch and take her to the races. She used to love it.
It's good to meet Gertie because you don't see too many old greyhounds around. While we've been researching the story, we've heard a lot about what's being called the industry's hidden secret, the euthanizing of healthy ex-racing dogs.
So Amy is your latest addition to the family?
Yeah, yes, she is. Yep.
And even some who love greyhound racing will admit to concerns with it.
Where is it? Where is it?
James Mason is a former track vet. Former because he's on a 10-year disqualification over betting and doping charges. He keeps dogs himself, but he's not allowed near a racetrack. But in spite of the ban, James Mason still loves the sport. Animal welfare campaigners are calling it industrialised animal abuse.
I certainly think it's stretching the truth to a breaking point.
That's it.
But there's one thing he is conflicted about, and that is the killing of healthy dogs. Mason estimates that he's euthanized up to 200 over 3 years, dogs put down for either poor performance or age. What age is deemed to be too old?
Well, they can race up to 5 years old.
So if they're being euthanized at 5 or younger?
They have a short life, yes. No getting away from that.
Come on.
The key question is, how many? Well, Greyhound Protection League founder Aaron Cross claims there are thousands of missing dogs that disappeared who vanish when their racing days are over.
The euthanasia of greyhounds comes from an industry where there's no room for losers.
But the numbers Aaron Cross cites infuriate Jim Leach, head of Greyhound Racing New Zealand, though he struggles to refute them. So it's fair to say you and your association don't know how many dogs are killed each year?
No, we wouldn't have any detailed evidence. That would not be a great deal, though.
That is disputed, though. Some say it's up to 1,000 dogs killed each year.
I think you're quoting figures from the Greyhound Protection League, who have never ever produced any evidence to support these figures.
I suppose your problem, though, is that you can't produce evidence to the contrary.
Well, we've got a pretty good idea, probably a lot better idea than what they've got.
He says some of them end up as pets through adoption programs, and some trainers will adopt privately. And we've learned a small number comes here to Massey's Veterinary Teaching Hospital. Since 2006, the university has taken more than 150 greyhounds from trainers. Dr. Nick Cave says they're euthanized and dissected by trainee vets.
The greyhound, because of its anatomy, because of its unique physique and the low body fat mass and its body size, makes it the perfect breed to teach veterinary students anatomy.
What condition are they in when they arrive?
almost always excellent.
So they're healthy dogs?
They range from dogs that are healthy to dogs that perhaps have fractured a leg or maybe ill for other reasons, but most of them are in a reasonable state of health.
But have reached the end of their racing careers?
Correct.
But disquiet about the death toll is growing, even amongst trainers. One we spoke to told us he's put down more than 500 dogs over his career, and that he's managed to justify it to himself as humane because it's always been done by a vet. Although he's now reached the conclusion that justification is, in his words, bullshit. Is it the reality that a certain disputed number of healthy dogs is killed each year?
Yes, there would certainly be some. It could be a few hundred perhaps.
So by the industry's own admission, a few hundred ex-racing dogs are killed each year. We've looked at the figures from last season and discovered that nearly 700 dogs from the year before were missing. So where are they? Well, 180 odd are confirmed as dead, the fate of a further 80 is unknown, and 280 are listed as retired. But in some cases, is retired a euphemism for something else?
For instance, remember this dog who we saw injured at Wanganui and who was put down that day. Well, the industry's public records list him as retired, and he's not the only one we know of. In spite of the injuries and the deaths, the show goes on, and it's growing. The association is hoping to sell live footage internationally to attract Asian gamblers. Those against greyhound racing are appalled, and they're not about to give up, even in the face of outright hostility.
The more you say, the more you criticise the industry, the more outspoken you are, the more you're painted as being obsessive, maniacal. They don't like you. Are you obsessed by this?
I don't care what people think, Paula. Honestly, I don't. I care that greyhounds are dying for the gambling industry.
In 2012, is this kind of entertainment or industry, whichever you want to call it, that actually leads to injuries and deaths for dogs, is it acceptable or is it an outdated practice?
I think it's definitely an acceptable practice. The dog has a great life. If I was going to come back as a dog, I'd want to come back as a greyhound.
You'd want to be a fast one though, because
yes.
if you're not, you might not last that long.